Welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, your gateway to the trends and tropes of the horror genre. This is episode 122, and we are finally celebrating the best damn mothers in all of horror.
It's about
Happy
time.
Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy
Mother's Day.
to all. And now, does
Yeah.
your mom listens to this podcast?
She does. So happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Happy Mother's Day.
My mom does not
Campbell.
listen to this because she does not like scary movies.
Let's not dive too deep into the psychology too fast here.
And this is where I'm going to have a big grudge for the whole episode. Yeah.
Because Mother's Day is rife with a lot of psychology.
Yeah, it is.
This,
We're going to dig into that probably and some of our choices.
I think we will. Yeah.
no, absolutely. And the fact of the matter is, this is one of the strongest. The mothers in horror. It was so hard to pick. There were so many really Hall of Fame.
You know what I discovered? I think you could easily make claim that every single horror film ever made derives from the mother. Every single one. Find one that doesn't.
That's a bold statement.
It is, but I think it's true.
Yeah,
The Thing?
probably most of them.
I'm not sure where the thing
They were
fits
all
in.
born. They had mothers.
They had mothers. The space aliens had moms. They might have not been, the nicest moms,
It's
but
kind of viral mom thing.
Space alien. We don't even know.
Right, that's true. They just wanted to go home wanted to go home to mom.
right.
I don't
But the rule tonight was, or I don't know if you guys followed this rule
what
or
rule?
not.
I got no rules.
Okay, well the only rule I threw out there, partially in jest, partially not, was you can't talk about Psycho and you can't talk about Hereditary.
Can you talk? Okay, well, all right. So I've got it's like Rosemary's Baby, Aliens, Friday the 13th, Carrie, Poltergeist.
Friday the 13th
The
would also
Brood.
be a cop out.
What's that, Liz?
I said Friday the 13th was also one that was not going to be on my list. I
Right.
picked kind of, they're not lesser. They're level 2. They're secondary.
Yeah,
Got like 3 different genres of moms, and I picked a film from each one.
great. So did I.
Because that was the
Right.
thing, was like all the best of moms or the moms in horror lists all were pretty much the same. There was like one or two that was like threw in some real curveballs, but pretty much all of them had Psycho, had Hereditary, had Friday the 13th, had Carrie.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like repeated over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And because we're the gateway to the trends and tropes of the horror genre, we want to give you something new. Because chances are you may have seen those films.
Yep.
And we might want to introduce you to something just a little different in honor of our horror moms.
Yeah, I would call those are kind of Hall of Fame level
Sure.
horror
Right.
moms, and
Right.
And we don't, I think those we are expecting our audience by this point to have visited. Granted, Carrie took me a long time.
Right.
So it's okay if you pick
Eric's
her.
seen Carrie.
Right.
Eric has seen Carrie.
I have seen Carrie now, but I think the temptation of with Hereditary is when Annie goes, "I am your mother." It's like, yup. Okay, that is something that you could sort of lead into. It's like, you gotta have some fucking respect for me. Kind of things like, yeah, sorry, mom. But I think that there are many different ways that you can use moms in horror.
Oh yeah.
There's the
good, bad, and different.
There's the mom as the antagonist and
Right.
the someone like Margaret White, who is batshit crazy.
Right. Right.
You've got the nurturing moms, the moms who are going to play hero.
Right.
You've got the mom
So
who
here's-
is a monster. You've got all kinds of
Yep.
You got the mom
That's
who's
what I did.
who's
I
the
have
vessel?
A killer, a victim, and a protector, I'll call.
great.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got one. I've got a hot mess. I've got the positive mother-daughter relationship, and I've got the desperate grieving mother. Now, I can also fall back on the imposter mother if I have to. That's my backups.
The,
so that's
the imposter mother.
The imposter mothers. I got 2 imposter mothers.
Why aren't we doing a whole podcast on imposter mothers?
You could.
Is that next? Imposter mothers?
Yeah. Fake
All
mom.
right. There's
Fake
the
mom.
There's the challenge. Imposter mothers. But Eric, what were the qualities that you said? Because obviously everybody knows and has a mother and has a relationship to a mother of some way, shape, or form. Some good, some bad. What were the things that you saw? Like what?
Well,
aside from rereading the Cliff Notes version of Oedipus Rex, tell us about like what should we be looking for in as we talk about horror moms?
I think you really want to see the dynamic. You want to see the bonds of affection and how they get strained, right?
Right.
And that whether it is mom going into hero mode or abusive mom,
right?
Or because those are the classic Psycho thing is it's that's one messed up relationship.
That's
right?
that's a bond of affection. It's just an Oedipal affection,
right? And and certainly there's the there's revenge moms, but I think there's a link between mothers and their children. Because we did a long time ago, we did
kids in horror.
Kids in horror. We also did dads in horror.
Kids in horror was like the 5th episode. So if you get into the Scariest Things Wayback Machine and go way back to
with Roberta,
like 3 years ago, you can listen to
and there's a dead list we wrote up.
That's
for
right.
That episode.
That's right.
Yep.
You can see all the kids.
Yep. And we've got. I think there was a dead list, a Mother's Day list also that we had done, but we haven't done the podcast for it.
No.
So that's so. A couple years later, here we go. And it is it's an evergreen topic, and it is one of the roots of psychology, right?
That's right.
Tell me about your mother.
Well, and I already talked about the great Charles Kaufman trauma film Mother's Day in the context of dysfunctional families.
Is it Charles Kaufman or Lloyd Kaufman?
It's Charles Kaufman.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Well, that was the 70s movie. That was the early
80s.
Early 80s.
Okay. Yeah. But it is a trauma. It is a trauma joint. And of course, the mom in that is like totally bananas. But it's really the kids that are extra bananas. Not so much the mom. The kids are bananas. The mom's totally bananas, but the kids are extra bananas.
But we're not going to get a return.
No, we're not. Not a return of the 1980 classic Mother's Day. No.
Okay. Yeah, that was
Even though that's just
a little too on the nose.
Too on the nose.
Yes, you read my mind. It's too on point.
Okay. So, Mike, why don't you go ahead and?
Oh my God!
So you get. We'll let you lead off this time.
Oh my Lord! Okay, I'm gonna read a quote to you guys, and I want to see if you guys can guess the film.
Sure.
It's a line from the film. She's possessed the mother to kill the child. What is the movie? So it's a contemporary film. Come on. You know it. Time up. It is the 2013 American supernatural horror film directed by James Wan, The Conjuring.
Oh man.
Yes. And you were kind of talking about, and that was the one that like just jumped out at me immediately. Obviously because I have Conjuring on the brain right now because Conjuring 3 is coming out.
Great trailer.
And so I rewatched The Conjuring, and so couple quick things before I even get into the Lily Taylor character. I think that is one of the scariest films I've ever seen, The Conjuring, and I am shocked that it's not on our top 100.
Yeah, I was just going.
And I am shocked that it's not on my top 25. And in fact, there's some stuff that is moving out of my top 25, and this is moving on.
The Conjuring is an expertly made scare film.
It is such a great movie.
Again, rated R. For being scary.
I watched it about a week ago. I watched it at night. It was so scary I had to turn it off. Not a lie. I'm a horror podcaster. I had to turn off The Conjuring because it was so scary.
and you, having seen it already, knowing what is coming, and you still...
It was scary.
Yes.
It was so scary. This, of course, The Conjuring, for those of you that don't know, and for those of you that want to get prepped for Conjuring 3, Conjuring 3 obviously is a wholly different story, but This covers the 1971 true story about Roger and Carolyn Perrin, who move into a house in Rhode Island with their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April, and their dog Sadie, who refuses to enter the house. The parents eventually seek the services of famed demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, who recently, of course, investigated the Annabelle doll, which is kind of that's the whole premise for that's the start of the film. That's sort of the setup, is they give you the backstory with Annabelle, which I think is kind of clever, because then it allows you to lead into all the other Annabelle films.
The Conjuring verse.
Yeah, the Conjuring verse. Right. She's obviously Lily Taylor's been around for a long time. I think she's a great actress. For a variety of reasons. I mean, I've obviously, as if you're a fan of film, you've seen a million things that she's been in. She's touched on comedy, she's touched on horror, she's touched on drama, she's touched on indie films. I mean, I think that's where she's kind of made her bread and butter. But the thing I think is really great about this, and the reason why I think the mother piece plays so well, is that becomes the linchpin of the film. And I don't want to totally spoil it, but the linchpin of the film is Lily Taylor and her relationship to her 5 daughters. And that's what Lorraine Warren ultimately uses as a way to get the demon out of her, is that love that she has for the kids. Right. There's no stronger bond, I guess, between parent and child, except for parent and demon.
That special relationship.
That special relationship between parent and demon. But in this case, parent wins, or child wins, not demon. Demon does not win. Spoiler alert: demon does not win. Valak, of course, shows up a couple times again, later on in the Conjuring verse. But that's what I would start with. And I didn't have this in mind as we were starting to talk about horror moms. It sort of leapt out at me, as I say, because I was so excited about watching the Conjuring 3 trailer coming to a theater near you in early June of 2021. I was just so excited about the Conjuring 3 trailer. I went back and watched The Conjuring because it's available on Netflix right now, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect mom.
And it is a 100% empathetic mom.
Oh my gosh.
And this was, it played fairly straight. I think that's one of the reasons why I think that The Conjuring was very effective, is that you had a very sympathetic family.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh!
Ron Livingston also as the dad was good.
He's great. I mean, he could be easily on the horror dads list,
right? They did, and it was they were victims of circumstance.
Oh yeah,
and
totally.
But the protector and the kids were game too. I think that was the whole. It was a great horror family, one of the great horror families we've had. So
right.
No, I did that one as soon as you said it. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That works.
Totally. No, she's great. The story is actually really interesting. I did read a lot about the Perrin family, and moving into that the farmhouse in Rhode Island, and being across the street from the cemetery with Bathsheba, who was allegedly a witch, and they immediately started hearing weird things in the house, like almost instantaneously.
Did they knock that old tree down? That would have gotten rid of that old tree, a hanging tree.
The really creepy thing about which it doesn't appear in The Conjuring, but does appear in the Perrin family story, or in the lore that, of course, is at Ed and Lorraine's roadside paranormal history museum, is that the girls all reported seeing a man with a crooked smile who would appear in the corner of their room as they were playing. If that's not, I mean, when I read that, I was just like, ooh, God. That's terrible. And he called himself Manny. which isn't terrible.
Was it Manuel, or was it just like
it was Manny? Apparently it was Manny. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
All right, Eric, what do you got?
Okay, so I'm going to lead off with my hot mess mom.
Okay.
This is a 2015 film called The Monster. I think I've referred to this before, and I forget in which context, but this is Zoe Kazan is Kathy, who's a hard-drinking and irresponsible young mother of Lizzie, who's played by Ella Ballantine. They have an awful relationship. Kathy never overcame the failure of her marriage and now she has to relieve custody of her only child to her ex-husband.
Right.
She's a negligent mom. She's not like physically abusive, but she can be verbally abusive. But Lizzie is one who she's the mature one in the relationship, and she's I think one who she still loves her mom, but she just can't deal with her. And so this is finally her chance. It's like, okay, I get to.
How old is the daughter again?
She's about 14.
Oh, okay.
Right,
So,
the mom's super young.
Yeah, and you
get the double dynamic,
right? It's a teen. The
surly teen and the crazy mom.
Yeah, and
good duo.
So this is all of a sudden it's like, fine, I got to live with dad. I don't want to have to deal with you anymore and your stupid shit.
Right.
And it's like, fine, I don't love you either. Kind of stuff. It's like, and then road trip.
Right.
Because got to drive cross state to go drop Lizzie off at her dad's house, which is the most awkward auto road trip possible. And Kathy the mom is handling the whole situation badly, seeing this as reflecting upon her failures as a wife and a mother. Right. And so she shows, it's a desperate show of selfishness, and it permeates the road trip in bickering and hashing out of grievances. And they, and in the middle of one of their arguments,
is it selfishness on? Are you saying selfishness on the part of the mom? Or
because she sees it as like,
I still haven't seen the monster yet.
Yeah. It's the kind of a thing where it's like, why? It's like, you never gave me a chance. And it's like, and poor me, and my life sucks, and but eventually they strike. A wolf bolts out in the dark and stormy night, in the woods, and a wolf bolts out of the rain, and they strike it, and they careen off the road into a ditch. Kathy gets injured. And so they go out and they take a look at the wolf, but it looks like the wolf had been attacked by something. It had been scared out of the woods, and before it got struck by the car. So they still have cell service, so they call for roadside assistance and call a tow truck. And in the meanwhile, it's like more recriminations of, it's like, you weren't paying attention.
Right.
It's like, well, you were distracting me, and so it's just because this bad relationship, and then the tow truck comes out, and the tow truck driver starts repairing the car, and then they realize that the wolf is missing,
right,
and something had gone out and taken the wolf away, and then that same thing goes out and takes out the tow truck driver,
right,
and it's so it is, now Kathy and Lizzie are being hunted by something large and voracious.
Right.
And whatever latent mothering instincts Kathy has finally kicks in, and she puts the survival of Lizzie above her own survival. So this is a redemption story. It's a relationship story that showcases a couple of really good acting performances. The monster is somewhat allegorical.
So she's crappy mom done good.
Yeah, this is well, she's trying, right? She all of a sudden, it's like
flawed mom.
Yeah, flawed
mom done good.
Flawed mom, hard drinking,
a
kind of negligent mom who probably she does love her kid, but she's just done so many.
Sure,
she's failed in so many ways as a mom that it's kind of hard to recover. But her kid's really willing to let her try. Right? It's like the daughter hasn't completely given up on mom, and that is the core of the movie. And then there is a monster trying to kill them.
Right.
And it's really a two-person showcase. Yeah. And
what did you give?
I gave it 3.5, 4 stars. I forget it was
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
I think it's a very simple story.
Yeah.
But I really liked the central relationship in it, and the monster practical effects were great. It's a good-looking monster.
Yeah.
They of course hide it in a dark and stormy night, which is always that's the horror director's best friend, is the dark and stormy night.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. Kathy, you're on the list.
Rotten mom turned hero mom. It's worth the worth the wait to see that conversion happen. Can't spoil the ending. It is one of those kinds of things where you're rooting hard for that relationship to come to an amends, because they call for more help. The problem is that the help ain't helping. The monster's just too much.
So we're going to see Monster 2.
Probably, maybe you could, but it wouldn't be involving this family.
Electric Boogaloo.
Monsters 2.
Monster 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Mama's Revenge.
Okay,
Electric
Liz.
Boogaloo.
Okay, so my first pick for Mom is not a hot mess at all. She is so perfect. Her only flaw is that she kills people. And this is the 1994 horror comedy written and directed by Charm City's own John Waters.
Yes.
This is Serial Mom.
Yeah.
Thank you, Liz.
Yes. I love this movie.
This movie is brilliant.
Joy to rewatch it the other day. So this is the story of Beverly Sutphin, played by Kathleen Turner, who lives at home with her dentist husband, Eugene, played by Sam Waterston, and their 2 kids, Misty and Chip, played by Ricky Lake, and in his film debut, horror son, Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
They're teenagers. He works in a video store and is obsessed with horror movies. So you're going to see horror movies throughout the whole
So this predated
film.
Scream, didn't it? This was...
just by a little.
This was his first movie, but it only
by a year.
Probably by a year.
Yeah,
I'd
year
say
or
the first
so.
Scream was
95,
maybe.
Yep.
Maybe later, maybe 96 or 97. But okay, so in this, Beverly murders people over just, slight, I guess, like social faux pas. Chip has a math teacher that says he needs to stop watching horror movies and he's not going to do well in school. She runs him over. Misty has a boyfriend, or kind of boyfriend, who tells her to lose weight and then stands her up. He gets killed at the flea market. It has one of the most creative kills where her neighbor gets beaten with a leg of lamb that she had prepared. And it's a lot of fun. It has got the John Waters cast of Mink Stall, Tracy Lords, these people who always...
I totally forgot it was a John Waters movie.
It's such a good movie.
movie.
Such a good movie.
John Waters does not show up in this, but he plays the voice of Ted Bundy. Beverly is also obsessed with true crime. So this is just a hilarious comedy, kind of about, at that time, America's obsession with true crime, which now is cyclical. That's totally come back.
Yep.
And the suburbs. And, kind of the ridiculous, like, one of the people she kills is because she's wearing white shoes after Labor Day. And so he's trying to keep up the perfect suburban mom, and not everybody's on board with Beverly. So this is, golly, it's so funny. It is so funny.
And John Waters
totally holds up.
He has his sardonic wit, when it comes to things like, the white shoes after Labor Day, that he understands American culture deeply.
Yeah.
And how ridiculous American culture is.
Right.
And I like this one. I'm a big fan of his, more in the camp and silliness like this, as opposed to the really disgusting
Pink Flamingos,
trashier side.
Yeah.
This is more of my John Waters.
Like Crybaby.
Like this one.
Yeah.
Crybaby. I love Crybaby.
Yeah.
So this is just a great mom, a great fun film, and it's pretty bloody, darn bloody.
I love Kathleen Turner.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, John Waters has a new book out about the Italian film director Pasolini, and he was just on the Mark Maron podcast, which I listened to, and it was actually very, very interesting. And John Waters actually talks a little bit about this and says that he and Kathleen Turner are still very, very close friends. I think John Waters maintains a lot of the friendships and relationships that he has over the years with folks. But, it's interesting, Liz, when you talk about sort of John Waters and the sort of the gross outside, is that, I mean, he talks a lot in the podcast about sort of like cancel culture and sort of censorship and whatnot. But it's interesting because he's, which I never really thought about this, but he said, being gross and being crude is actually pretty easy, but being gross and crude and making it funny is actually
Right.
very difficult.
Yep.
And that's what
Yeah.
he's
And that's
what he's done his entire life.
Yeah, and our
And
friend
this
Lloyd
has some
Kaufman
gross
wrestled.
and crude stuff. It just doesn't have Divine eating her own shit.
Right.
That's where.
Yeah. No, I think this was
Dog poop.
This was
Not hers. It was not her poop. It was just dog poop.
right, but it was.
Oh, was it?
But she was really eating it. I mean, that was like, come on.
Yeah.
It's just, ugh.
That's not for me.
Yeah, I mean, that John Waters has a special sort of role in cinema.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Brilliant person. Cultural icon in America. So speaking of John Waters, this is a film that was modeled after Oedipus the King by Sophocles, borrowing the themes of adoption and incestual yearning from a mother to her son. This is a film that I had never seen, and I can't remember what year this came out. I want to say it came out in 1981. This is a film directed by William Asher, who gave us Beach Blanket Bingo. This is Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker.
Wow.
Yeah, starring Jimmy McNichol, Bo Swenson, Julia Duffy from Newhart, Britt Leach from Silent Night, Deadly Night, and starring in the mother role, Susan Terrell. You're probably asking yourself, who in the hell is Susan Terrell? Susan Terrell, of course, was in Andy Warhol's Bad. She has been in a million films. If you saw her, you would know her. She is an amazing actress. But basically, what the film does is it follows a young boy, Jimmy, who's played by Jimmy McNichol, brother of famed 70s actress Christy McNichol and heartthrob to many a young man. Jimmy is orphaned at a young age, and he's raised by his aunt Cheryl. Cheryl has a very unnatural and often sexual attachment to Jimmy, which is very strange. She berates him, she belittles him, she befuddles him. She even breaks in on Jimmy and Julia Duffy, his girlfriend, as they are getting it on.
Mom!
Yeah. It turns out, and this is somewhat of a spoiler alert, but it does turn out that Aunt Cheryl is indeed not just Aunt Cheryl, but mom.
Right.
Yeah. And when you were talking about the sort of the hidden mom or the mom switcheroo or the alternate mom, the false mom, this is indeed the false mom. I mean, the film is so twisted and so campy and so wild. The premise of it is crazy because she ends up the Cheryl character, who is largely responsible for taking care of her quote unquote nephew, aka her child, ends up killing a guy, and the guy that she kills was having a homosexual relationship with Jimmy's coach, and homosexuality and sort of this kind of this need to, or the latent need to hide their homosexual tendencies in the coaching world becomes kind of the centerpiece, or one of the centerpieces of the film. But it has, I described it. If you can go read the review on the Scariest Things website. There was a review that was done by Matt Howell just recently, because the film just popped up on Shudder. But when I watched it, I said, this is like the most inadvertently John Waters film that that John Waters never did.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of it is kind of it definitely is synchronous. Synchronous, yeah. But I will say this: Susan Terrell is, if you watch her on screen, I think the only mom, like terrifying mom, that I can think of that's close is, and I can't even think of the actress's name who plays the mom in the original Friday the 13th, but it's that kind of sort of manic, sort of wild performance where there's, muttering to oneself and just, switching emotional palette, like back and forth, and it's just her performance is so insane. It really is something to witness. But yeah, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. I was just of course excited because it featured the toy store owner from the great film Silent Night, Deadly Night, and I was like, oh my god, that's the guy who owns the toy store in Silent Night, Deadly Night. This is going to be the best movie ever. And
Mike gets excited for little cross references.
yeah,
like
very small craft. I don't need much. And man, this delivers in such an amazing way. I do recommend you can watch it. And I think it's one of these ones that was like had been out of print forever and a day. Just popped up on Shudder. It's a super nice print.
Cool.
And so you can watch it if you got your Shudder subscription, which you should have your Shudder subscription. Go watch Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker.
For the record, Betsy Palmer plays Pamela Voorhees.
Betsy Palmer, thank you. Yes. Yeah. Susan Terrell, aka Cheryl Roberts. Their performances are very, very similar. Although I would argue that Susan Terrell's performance is even crazier.
All right.
Yeah.
Got a couple of nutty ones back to back.
Oh my gosh,
Twice.
absolutely.
All right. So my second pick is the positive mother-daughter relationship. And this is from The Final Girls, 2015. It's a pop horror tearjerker because who doesn't love their mom? This is perhaps the most endearing mother-daughter horror movie relationship I've seen. Malin Ackerman plays Amanda Cartwright, an aging actress whose main call to fame was her role as Nancy in Camp Bloodbath, which is essentially a 1-for-1 for Friday the 13th. She's been or probably actually more specifically Friday the 13th Part 2, because we all know that in Friday the 13th the original villain was not Michael, or not Jason. but was Mrs. Voorhees.
Right.
So, anyways, that's before we start writing in and saying no.
Yeah.
Don't you know you're Friday?
We just couldn't remember her name. That was
so she's Nancy has been Amanda. Amanda has been relegated to slumming the convention circuit, and she really hasn't had a follow-up hit to Camp Bloodbath. She never became the next Jamie Lee Curtis or even really the next Heather Langenkamp for that matter. Interestingly, they have a credit sheet, and she's listed as being in Chopping Mall. So I had to check to see if there was an Amanda Cartwright in Chopping Mall, and no, there's not. Anyways, Thaisa Farmiga is her daughter, Max, who is the responsible daughter. This is sort of like a better relationship than the last movie I just referenced, where the daughter is really taking care of the mom. So Max is watching the family's dwindling income. There's no father in the picture, and Amanda would prefer to ignore the financial pressures and relive her glory years. And so her lack of responsibility carries over to her driving, unfortunately. And while rocking out to Betty Davis Eyes, reliving the glory years of the 1980s.
Why wouldn't you?
They get into a car
Kim
crash.
Carnes rules.
Yeah.
Where
crash
are you,
happens.
Kim Carnes?
I know. Yeah, it's like one hit wonder. Betty Davis Eyes.
It was Kim Carnes, yeah? Sorry.
I think she had a couple of hits.
It was Kim Carnes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Just wanted to make sure.
But so Amanda dies in the car crash.
What?
So eliminate the mom, which was a bit surprising.
You're doing a mom horror film without a mom?
Well, this is the best part here.
Uh-oh. Okay. Is this a mom switcheroo?
So this is you fast forward 3 years, and a tribute presentation of Camp Bloodbath is staged at the local theater, and we are introduced to all of the supporting characters, including the kind of boyfriend Chris, the best friend Gertie, the uber horror nerd Duncan, played by Thomas Middleditch, who's pretty annoying, and the bitchy ex-bestie Vicky. So you get your standard cast of Expendables, right?
Right.
And as Max awkwardly endures watching her late mother in a slasher movie, whose character is doomed for an early horror movie exit because you have sex and you die, right? Such as the way of Friday the 13th movies. It triggers all sorts of mixed emotions. But before the movie killings begin in earnest, an unlikely accident that involves a whiskey bottle and a doobie ends up igniting the whole theater in flames, to which the architect in me goes, where the hell are the sprinklers? So our main cast escapes the inferno by cutting their way through the screen and into the movie, where Max encounters her mom's character, Nancy. That's where the Nancy comes in.
Okay.
And all of the B-movie characters slated to be the serial killer fodder. The result is something akin to Back to the Future, where you meet your mom as a young woman and you can't afford to let slip.
Actually goes into the movie.
They go.
Yeah.
It's a daughter. Daughter is Max. Max is Thaisa Farmiga.
Gotcha.
So she and all of her friends flee the flaming theater and end up going through the movie screen, and it's a through the looking glass moment, right?
Gotcha.
And all of a sudden they start seeing.
I'm with you.
They start seeing the loop. It's like it's a very clever thing. It says about 92 minutes later, the length of a movie.
Right.
All of a sudden, here comes the Volkswagen bus again, and so that they're playing Mickey, right? So this is lots of heavy-handed '80s tribute stuff. So the Tony Basil, right? To drop all that kind of stuff. Anyways, so it's again akin to Back to the Future, where you meet your mom as a young woman and you can't afford to let slip the secret of the relationship, aka, hi mom. The key to a movie like this is to cast a woman old enough to plausibly be the mother of a teenage daughter and young enough to look like a near teenager herself. The unsaid premise, of course, is that actors in these dead teenager slasher movies are often much older than they are purported to be in the movie.
Right.
Plot's pretty conventional. It's got the time loop conundrum essential to establishing the parameters of the story, along with a straight out of something like The Burning or Friday the 13th, right? Those classic camp killer horror tropes. It's a very meta movie, and it echoes all these 80s types, and clearly the filmmakers love this stuff. And the whole thing is about setting up all the final girls and who's the final girl, and it's a virginal thing.
Right.
And the mom, the daughter's trying to prevent her mom from having sex so that the mom doesn't get killed.
Right.
But why are you holding me back? And she goes, you're the quiet one. You're not supposed to have sex. It's like, but this is like, a lot of those kinds of.
So it's a slasher meets Back to the Future.
Yes, very much.
Okay. And what year was this again?
This is 2015.
2015.
So
okay.
the dumb movie victims are all played to enjoyable extremes. So there's, of course, in addition to our cast who actually enters in through the looking glass,
right?
There are the victims in the movie, and they're a bunch of idiots,
right?
Yeah. And they're played very, very broadly, and they're a lot of fun because they do the comic over the top kind of stuff. These elements are familiar, but they work. But what really works through this is the anguish of Max wanting to tell Nancy how much she loves her, but avoiding at all costs the awkwardness of actually admitting to being her daughter. Nancy is a fictional character, after all.
Right.
So as horror movies go, there are very few I love you, mom storylines that could match this one. It's light, it's fun, it's highly enjoyable. Watch this with your squeamish mom. But don't worry, it's only PG-13.
Okay.
So you can get away with that. It is really, it's a.
What did you give this one?
I'd give it three stars. I think I think I'd give it 4 stars specific to Mother's Day.
Sure.
It's fun. I think,
Is there a Final Girls 2?
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And there has not been a Final Girls 2 yet.
Okay.
But I know there's a TV show. I don't know if it has any relationship to that. I don't think it does.
Oh no, that was like from the American Horror Story people.
Okay.
It did have Thaisa Farmiga in it though.
Right. Yeah. So irony of ironies, and I think that there's, the closing credits it's a lot of fun how they handle it. The conclusion of the movie, because it's they're caught in this. How do you get out of the time loop? And you see a lot of the kind of sequences of run through a scene and then you run through. It's like, wait, we were just here. All that kind of stuff. So there are, for people who like sort of it's very pop culture heavy.
Sure.
And it's a kick, and it's a great mother-daughter kind of a thing, because there are, I mean, you do get it gets 3 stars because you really get you kind of go, oh, there you go. Just tell her you love her. Come on, kid. And then eventually, there is the eventual unveiling of "You're my mom,"
sure,
kind of thing, and but you're waiting for that they hold on to that for a very long time.
Right.
Anyhow, so that's a lighter version. So this is a flip to The Monster, which was shitty relationship. This is great relationship, and I miss you so much. I'm sorry that you died.
I know. You kind of took the assignment seriously. Liz and I sort of went Mondo Bizarro.
Yep.
So, Liz, have you got another Mondo Bizarro one for your second pick?
I'm coming back, and this is my mom as a protector.
Mm-hmm.
But this mom's kind of having a hard time. And I am picking Cujo.
Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah. So this is Dee Wallace as Donna Trenton, mother to little Tad Trenton, played by Danny Pintaro from Who's the Boss. And she's a regular mom. She is kind of having a tough time. She has got her ad exec husband who's like always working, so she's having an affair. They've got, the broken down car. She's dealing with him finding out about the affair, and it's hot. In the middle of summer, they got the kid who's complaining about being in summer camp, and all this is just building up on her. So when the husband goes out of town after he finds out about her affair, she's stuck with their Ford Pinto that's been having problems. And before she can go visit her sister, she's got to take it to not the, mechanic shop in town. She takes it to this guy who's kind of outside of town on a farm because he'll fix it cheaper. And their car breaks down in his driveway. Wouldn't normally be a problem, except they have a giant Saint Bernard named Cujo.
He's
who
so lovable.
was frolicking in the fields one day, chasing after a rabbit, sticks his nose into the rabbit warren, and oops, there's bats in that cave, and he gets bit by a bat. And as all this drama with the family is unfolding, you're seeing Cujo succumb to rabies and becoming a rabid dog. And he is huge. I mean, a Saint Bernard is a big dog, so he's probably
and the evolution
150 pounds. I mean,
the evolution of Cujo too is something to behold.
Yeah.
Like I watched this recently too because I think it also just popped up on Shudder, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you see like initially Cujo's a little like kind of like he's got bloodshot eyes and kind of like he's kind of drooling a little bit, and then he gets like so gross towards the end of the movie,
and like the flies around his nose.
Yeah,
and it's just like a big open. So it's it hurts your heart for this dog.
It does.
But,
he is the top dog of horror dogs.
What?
He's the best.
Yeah,
more so than the dog in The Thing.
Because he's the central figure in this.
Yeah.
No, Dee Wallace is.
Well, yeah, Dee Wallace is an important thing, but as
horror
dogs go, he gets more screen time.
As horror dogs go, he's got top bill.
I do love the husky in The Thing, though. I mean, we've got. You can check out our dead list on favorite horror dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But so for our moms, this is because Dee Wallace is stuck in this car in the dead of summer with her son, fighting off this rabid, huge dog with nowhere to go. And boy, it's an ordeal. Like her son, I mean, they're in there for 2 days.
It is
and every
really
time they try to get out of the
movie.
car, you think, okay, the dog's sleeping, they can sneak out. I mean, someone calls the phone and you hear the phone ringing inside the farmhouse because, of course, that whole family's dead from the dog.
Right.
And then the dog
but
is on alert again.
They kind of had it coming to him, though.
Tension building, and I mean, this is a mom who's fighting for her kid against this dog, and she is, successful at the end. But
hero
oh
mom.
God, it hurts. It hurts you. Yeah.
And Danny Pintaro, the little boy that plays the son. I mean, he I don't know. I was like 4 or 5 years old, something like that. I mean.
Probably when he was in Cujo, I'd say he was probably about that. He's teeny tiny little guy.
Yeah, he turns in a great performance too, because like every time they turn the camera to him, he's just like he's about ready to pass out, and he's like sweating. Yeah. He's got he's down to his underwear. He's got no water. I mean, that I felt bad for the kid.
Yeah.
But then that really draws out the relationship with.
She's safe. It's because she takes him in the kitchen and he's almost dead.
Right.
Because they've been in there, sweating, dying in the heat with no water for days.
But yeah, I think, his performance really enhances sort of the familial bond and the kind of the nurturing nurturing nature of the mom in the film.
I mean, really, the key thing is it's about her making that calculated gamble.
Oh, to run to that. Well, to run
it's
to
like
the house.
how long can we really gut it out in this car?
Yeah.
And where's that dog?
The first calculated gamble she has to make is to run to when the sheriff shows up and then gets munched by Cujo. She has to make the calculated move to go run for the gun.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I like Cujo.
Cujo's it's a simple
movie.
simple story, well told.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little slow to get to the Cujo action because they're really setting up that why her husband is kind of on a business trip and why she's like pissed off all the time. They probably could have done. You don't need all that backstory of their affair, and
I would have liked more backstory of Cujo himself.
Yeah, I agree, Liz, because I think that was just like that must have been Stephen King, poking his nose around.
Well, he doesn't even remember writing Cujo.
He was so high on coke.
Really in his drinking phase.
Yeah.
So
right.
yeah, but you know what? When I rewatched the movie for this, like I forgot about all that, and still the Cujo part holds up as when Cujo first shows up at their car window, it is still a very effective jump scare.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Even if you know it's coming.
Yep. Yeah.
That one terrifies me.
Yeah, that was a bestseller for years.
Yeah.
The book.
The book. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was everybody knew the book.
Right.
And so the movie, and it was a time. Now who was the director for Cujo?
The director for Cujo is Louis Teague.
Okay. Yeah, he's done a couple. I think Louis Teague's. I think we've talked about him before in some other context. I forget what other movies he did, but that was sort of at the height of Stephen King's popularity.
Yeah, he's also done a section of Cat's Eye, which was also Stephen King, and he also directed Jewel of the Nile.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. Kathleen Turner.
Yeah. It all comes back to Kathleen Turner. Louis Teague, if you're still alive, we would love to have you on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Come on out. Come on down.
Come on in.
All right. Well, I'm going to stay with super gross, and this involves a mother giving birth through a psychoplasmically induced external womb, and when she gives birth to the child thing, she licks the child clean. This is a film that Vaughn Palmer from the Vancouver Sun said is mean, foul, and witless.
It's also in Mike Campbell's top 25 movies of all time.
Yes, they said the people who made The Brood do not like people. They don't even appear to like themselves. They just like money.
Well, I think didn't Cronenberg did The Brood while he was going through a divorce?
He did indeed. Yeah. And so yes, and so this film of course involves a woman by the name of Nola Carveth and her husband. Nola Carveth is played by the great Samantha Eggar, who did lots and lots of horror stuff. I came to learn as I was researching it, but the film involves a custody battle with a young girl as a husband and wife are going through a divorce that largely mimicked Cronenberg's real life custody battle and divorce. And the mother goes into what is it called? The Soma Free Institute. And of course, the Soma Free Institute is also run by another horror great, Oliver Reed, who plays Dr. Raglan. And he has developed an experimental therapy called psychoplasmics. And part of the psychoplasmics, he's an MD allegedly, and they talk about that a bit in the film. But the psychoplasmics involves very questionable psychoanalysis.
That's a
psychoanalysis. Lots of screaming at people, lots of yelling at people, and then Samantha Eggar in a very, very weird state, ultimately birthing
dwarves.
What she's really birthing.
Hate dwarves.
She's birthing her own rage.
Yeah,
and she's birthing her own inadequacies as a mother, which is kind of interesting because it's like It's fascinating because this film obviously, as all David Cronenberg films, it operates on a number of different levels. Talking about the maternal and motherhood, and the inadequacies of being a mom, and like giving so much to the child. But then it fuses all of the sort of the concerns of being a mom and motherhood with body horror.
Yep.
Which is just such a strange but somewhat kind of natural kind of connection between the two.
There's a little bit of body horror in birthing.
There is a little bit. Well, there is a little bit of body horror in birthing for sure. She is great. Samantha Eggar is great. Mm-hmm. The line is filled with, so much contemplation of motherhood, and even in the very, very first scene when Oliver Reed is talking to one of the other patients, he's screaming, like in the very first moments of the film, he's screaming at this other patient about how he's a sissy and he's a little girl, and the mother did this to him. The mother turned him into this sissy, and he needs to like break free of the mother. And right out of the gates, you're thrown into this like deep and pretty heady discussion of kind of motherhood and the relationship to the child. And then of course, the father is caught in the unenviable position of having to deal with, Oliver Reed, who's a complete psychopath, and his wife, who is turning into a complete psychopath. And then he's having to deal with, also early on in the film, he's having to deal with the grandmother, his wife's mother, who has her own. She even gives a speech before the dwarf creatures attack and kill her. She gives her own speech about the having to deal with the inadequacies of child rearing, and the complications of being a mom. So yeah, if you have not seen The Brood, if you haven't seen any David Cronenberg, you probably don't want to start with The Brood, because
Happy Mother's Day.
But this one is. I guess
it's a tough watch.
It is a tough watch,
and particularly for Mike, because he has a latent fear of dwarfs.
I do have a latent fear of dwarfs, as we discovered in, I think, very early on in
episode
the podcast.
2, I think.
Very, very early on in the podcast. But yeah, I do absolutely recommend The Brood. It still, to me, is one of the scariest movies of all time. Did it make our top 100? I don't think it did.
It's there.
Yeah.
I did. Okay.
We'll have to check with our. We need Ernie.
I know. We need our ace researcher. Yeah. All right, Eric. What is the last Mother's Day horror film on your list? The best Mother's Day horror film of all time. Go.
Okay. This is The Desperate Grieving Mother.
Oh.
This is A Dark Song from 2017. This is
interesting.
And this is one, like, if you go searching best horror moms, this one doesn't show up, and it really should.
No.
This is Catherine Walker plays Sophia Howard, a mother who lost her 7-year-old son and whom she desperately wants to speak to. She rents an old Welsh farmhouse and convinces Joseph Solomon, portrayed by Steve Oram, a renowned and cantankerous occultist, to help her create a clairvoyant ritual to contact her son.
He is a
He is
Jerk.
cantankerous,
Yes, he is.
Well, he's not just a jerk. He's like straight up abusive.
Yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
So this guy Solomon, he agrees, but he warns Sophia that if they ever leave the farmhouse before the ritual is complete, the consequences will be grave for both of them.
Right.
And so what follows is the most elaborate, convincing, and long summoning ritual that has been put to screen. Solomon's instructions are precise, complicated, and at times humiliating. Abusive.
I would argue it's even more complicated than Midsummer.
Yes. Yeah. And what's more, there's little evidence that the ritual is working.
Right.
Through a good portion of the movie.
Right.
And Sophia begins to question whether this whole endeavor has been a foolish exercise, and that all of her humiliation is for naught, which involves like drinking his blood and watching him masturbate.
Right.
And it's just like, what is going on? And so we, as the audience, are brought to similar conclusions, and that the whole drawn-out process can be painful to watch. It's more for the frustration and the awkwardness of seeing what she has to go through than really truly scary. I mean, it's kind of scary because it seems like it's abusive, right?
Yeah,
this
yeah,
ritual,
It's so uncomfortable.
it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
dark and really it's like and this guy is Jerk, jerk.
Yep.
But eventually there are dark signs that the ritual may be working,
Right.
or is it?
Right.
She also violates some of the rules.
Right.
She has she has complicated things by harboring a dark secret, and though she really wants to do the ritual, her intent is much darker than her original description of her motives. Naturally, this is a bad thing. And once the ritual really starts cooking, the dire consequences that were foreshadowed in the opening scene begin to play out. So it's a slow burner. This is the king of the slow burners,
It really is.
or the queen of the slow
It
burners,
really
as
is.
Yeah.
It's a movie about obsession, revenge, and the ritual itself is just fascinating to watch. It's powerful.
It really is. Well, I remember when you watched it, you like immediately hit me up and said, "You got to watch this. You would love this film."
It's
And I did. It was good.
Yeah.
So good.
everything in the harrowing final third act is 100% earned and built up to. I mean, this is why you do slow burners. It's everything the little precise kinds of things, the little warnings, all the kind of
The third act is a trip.
it's
It is psychedelic.
Yeah.
It is
It's
so
bonkers.
it is so bonkers.
and it's like
Which-
involves angels and demons and
it doesn't even, I mean, it fits, but it doesn't, I mean, it's so different from the first two acts.
yeah. So this is the slow process of the ritual makes everything makes everything eventually manifest, and it's been anchored by the conviction and the love that a mother had for her child,
Right.
plus revenge.
Right. Right.
It's really cool. It's a beautiful movie. It's somber. It's disturbing.
It's sadly the director, Liam Gavin, hasn't really directed any other horror movies.
Yeah,
Or he
well-
hasn't directed any other movies.
Well, you have to remember that the movie was done in 2017, so it wasn't that long ago. He still
Sure.
got. I mean, we're waiting on a number of these directors who've come out recently.
Yeah.
But this is one of those ones.
I hope he gets
I
back
kind of
to
got
it.
turned to this because I was listening to Mick Garris interviewing Patton Oswalt,
Right.
of all things.
And they were talking about this.
About this film they were talking about?
Yeah, and so
cool.
Mick Garris was like, so what? Because Patton Oswalt just being a
Yeah.
guest on his podcast, and and Oswalt goes, you know what I saw? You got to see A Dark Song, and I was like, oh God, that is a great mother child story. Sort of, granted, the child's not there anymore,
Right.
but it is still a mother's the loss of a parent's child and then wanting justice.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was like there have been few that's like one of those ones, and it sticks with you. You remember this one. This one. I'll be hard pressed when it comes around. We're going to be doing our top 25s again. I mean, you were just mentioning you said Conjuring. It's like I'm going to have to go sort
Conjuring's
through.
going. Conjuring's on the list.
Yeah, I have to sort of sort through some of these newer movies.
Yeah.
Where do they land on my list?
Right.
And this one, and this one's it stuck with me. It's a very different kind of a movie.
Right.
It really does stick with you. That's
Yeah.
one you think about.
Right.
For sure.
So, anyways, that's kind of the downer side to my previous one, which was the
Yeah,
I love you, Mom. This one is
We all kind of ended on a somber note for Mother's Day.
maybe Liz has one that's an uplifting one.
Yes.
Nope. I am also ending on a downer, but with also a movie that sticks with you, and I've rewatched a couple times, including today. And this is 2014's Goodnight Mommy.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
This is not the mom you want to be.
no.
No. Another great
This
one.
was-
This is an
Oh my gosh, another
Austrian
great one.
film written and directed by Veronica Franz and Severin Fiala, who are a aunt and nephew duo. I love that.
Mhm.
And this is the story of the mommy, who is named, they just call her Mutter, which is Austrian for mother, played by Suzanne West.
Wust,
And
I
she
think.
has two twin boys, Lucas and Elias. And the mother shows up at home one day to their isolated, country house that like borders a cornfield. Nothing good ever happened in a cornfield. And her head is completely wrapped in bandages. Only her eyes and mouth are visible, and the twins are freaked out, and they are convinced that the person who has come back from this surgery is not their actual mother.
Dun,
So
dun,
this
dun.
is a slow burn as well. The first 2 acts, you're just kind of seeing these little boys convincing themselves why it's not their mother. She says, like, I have to have the blinds drawn all day. I have to have absolute silence. You can't talk, while I'm recovering. You don't really understand why she's had this surgery, kind of until the end, and really never fully.
No, that's right. It remains a bit of a mystery.
A bit of a mystery. Through that, they go into town and tell a priest that, this stranger is coming to their house, and they don't know where their mother is. And, the priest brings them home, and he's like, you're crazy. There's this pair of Red Cross workers who kind of just stumble into the house.
Oh, that's right.
They sit in there for a good 10 minutes, which is a bit of a weird scene. All the while, the boys now have tied their mother up and are convinced that they need her to prove that she is their real mother. And the third act is just a gruesome and horrifying torture scene of them trying to find out if it's really their mom. And then, I'm not going to spoil it because not everybody has seen this film. You're really finding out, something is wrong with the boys, and you find out a little bit about an accident that could have been why the mom is having this plastic surgery. And it's not really totally explained, but more things will make sense in the third act.
Yeah. It's got a little audition. It's got a little misery.
And a lot of the follow-up movie that Fiala and the Lodge.
For sure.
Where
I hadn't seen this.
The little funny games.
Yeah. For sure.
That.
I hadn't seen this until we did the top 100, and I knew it was in the 70s, somewhere in the 70s. I can't remember where it was, but 70s or 80s or something like that. Not the decade, but the
ranking
within our list. And so I watched it because I knew we were going to be getting to it. And man, there is a big twist to it, and I won't spoil the twist, but I honest to God, did not see that twist coming at all. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Yeah, that's such a great movie.
What I like about how the directors do their movies is that your allegiances shift.
Oh my gosh.
You trust it's like the mother is creepy and acting strange. So you side with the boys. Then the boys start acting creepy, and then you go, no, she doesn't deserve this.
Right.
And you're
much
constantly,
in the same way the Lodge does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that there's that they know how to script a twister.
Oh yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
So
good choice.
Yeah, no, this was my imposter mother.
Is this the only film?
Is she an imposter? We don't know.
That's true.
That's true.
That's up to the viewer.
Is this the only of the Mother's Day films that actually has the word mother in it, or mommy, or some derivation of mother?
Technically, Goodnight Mommy is the American name, or the English name. The German name is Ixi, which means I see.
Yeah. Interesting.
So,
interesting.
Also, whether we need it or not, they are remaking this with Naomi Watts.
All right.
Do it. Well, shoot.
Maybe.
You know what? Just
don't do
it. If you can't read the subtitles, dub it into English and just watch the original.
It's a beautiful movie too.
Don't get me started on the remakes.
Since they're remaking The Exorcist, anything goes. Literally anything. Next up, The Godfather.
This does not need a remake.
Or The Exorcist.
I can't imagine them finding better little boys to play these parts.
No, they were so great. They were so awesome.
They said they went through like 500 sets of twins until they found these kids. Because they're like they're gorgeous. They look super innocent, but also very sinister.
Yeah. Kind of like that old British movie with the little blonde kids who get that they're Children of the Damned.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Or Village of the Damned.
Village of the Damned.
They have that
for
kind
sure.
of like they're too pretty.
Yep.
But
they sure are.
But they act also, part of this is like they act like little boys do. Like they're 9-year-old little boys, and the mother is like, "Stop jumping on the bed. Stop running around in the meadow.
You have to go outside. You can't talk. I need complete silence."
She's a complete
buzzkill when you're recovering from plastic surgery, but she's not acting like a mom should act.
No,
and she's very cool, and that kind of makes you think, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe she isn't their mom.
Yeah.
This one sticks with you.
Oh God, it sure does. This was
one.
My counter to that. I also have my imposter mother Mark II, which is Coraline with the other mother.
Right.
And so that was I had that. I thought about I thought long and hard about actually having Mothra. as being the monster mom she's always the Mothra is the great monster who always does the self-sacrifice. She always dies in her movies,
right?
But she always has these giant caterpillars who come back and redeem her. It's kind of a thing.
My backup mom is Jo Beth Williams in Poltergeist.
Yes,
that's a good one. Wait, who are Mothra's children? The two little
caterpillars,
the two little girls that that are psychically connected.
It's the giant maggots.
Oh, okay,
right. And they come out there and they hatch, and then they take on Godzilla and they chase him away after Mothra sacrificed herself. All that kind of stuff. It's all kaiju goodness.
All right. Well, let's go down the list. Eric, who are your top 3 mothers in horror?
Okay. My mother number 1 is Kathy, played by Zoe Kazan in The Monster, 2016. Then my second one is Amanda Cartwright, the actress mother in The Final Girls from 2015. And my final one is Sophia Howard, the desperate grieving mother from A Dark Song, 2017.
Oh, yeah. Good choice. All right. My 3 were Lily Taylor from The Conjuring, 2013, who plays Carol Perrin. The second one is from 1981. This is Aunt quote Aunt Cheryl. This, of course, is played by the great Susan Terrell in Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. And then finally, Nola Carveth, played by Samantha Eggar in 1979's The Brood. Liz, what was on your list?
Okay, my first mom is Kathleen Turner, playing Beverly Sutphin in Serial Mom. Then I have Dee Wallace as Donna Trenton in Cujo. Mm-hmm. And closing it out with Suzanne West as just Mother in Good Night, Mommy.
Mutter. Happy Mutter's Day.
Mutter.
So a happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there. And Liz, I think you've got a closing tagline for us.
I've got a closing tagline, and this one comes from Cujo, and it's not about a mother, but it's got one of our favorite mothers. And the closing tagline is, "His bite is worse than his bark. Much, much worse."
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy